Stop scrolling right now because what you are about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about Zhao Lusi and her so-called casual social media post. Before you dismiss it as another celebrity photo update, stay with the story until the end because hidden inside those soft floral images is a message that fans were never meant to decode this easily. And if you think this is just aesthetic content, you are already missing the real story unfolding in plain sight. Watch closely and read everything because the truth might already be revealing itself in ways nobody expected. It all started with a post that looked completely harmless. Zhao Lusi shared a series of soft-toned images on her social media feed. At first glance, it looked like another peaceful day in her life. Gentle lighting, calm expressions, and carefully arranged flowers placed in the background as if they were just part of a simple aesthetic concept. But within minutes, something unusual began to happen. Fans who are used to her subtle storytelling style started noticing patterns. Not random patterns, but intentional repetition. The same flowers appearing in different frames. The same color palette echoing across separate images. And most importantly, the timing of the post itself, released quietly at a moment when online discussions about her personal life were already at their peak. What looked like innocence was quickly turning into a puzzle. Observers began breaking down each image like pieces of a coded message. In the first photo, Zhao Lusi is seen near white lilies. In traditional symbolism, lilies often represent renewal and emotional clarity. But what caught attention was not just the flower, but the way it was positioned, placed slightly off-center, as if deliberately drawing attention away from her face and toward the background. In the second image, soft pink blossoms appear, arranged in a pattern that almost looks accidental. But fans noticed something deeper. The blossoms were not just decoration. They appeared in clusters that matched earlier posts from months ago, posts that had no explanation at the time, but suddenly felt connected. And then came the third image. This one changed everything. The third image showed a single branch, slightly bent, carrying fewer flowers than the rest. It was quieter, almost emotional in tone. Many viewers initially skipped past it, but analysts of her content pointed out that this was the most important frame of all, because it broke the pattern. As discussions intensified, a theory began to form. This was not just a random aesthetic upload. It was a structured emotional sequence. Each image represented a stage of internal reflection. White lilies suggested clarity after confusion. Pink blossoms suggested emotional memory. The broken branch suggested something unresolved. When placed together, the sequence felt less like decoration and more like a silent narrative about love, distance, and reconciliation. A section of fans started linking this post to her previous subtle hints over the past few weeks. Small captions that seemed unrelated at the time. Short comments that felt emotional but unexplained. Even certain public appearances where her expressions appeared softer, almost reflective. Everything was beginning to align. According to fan analysis, Zhao Lusi may have constructed a layered message that only makes sense when viewed as a whole timeline. The flowers were not random. The colors were not aesthetic choices. Even the order of posting was believed to carry meaning. One interpretation suggests that the post represents a private emotional conversation, possibly connected to someone from her past. Not in a dramatic sense, but in a quiet, unresolved emotional space that has never been publicly addressed. Another interpretation goes even deeper, suggesting that the message is not about revealing a relationship, but about acknowledging emotional growth. A symbolic way of saying that something once important still exists in memory, even if it is no longer visible in reality. What makes this even more intriguing is how carefully it was delivered. There was no caption explaining anything. No direct statement. Just images, timing, and symbolism. Fans noticed that this post was uploaded at a very specific hour. Not during peak engagement time, but during a quiet window when fewer people would immediately analyze it. This detail changed the interpretation completely. If this was just an aesthetic post, timing would not matter. But if it was intentional communication, then timing becomes part of the message itself. It suggests a level of privacy protection within public visibility. A way of saying something without officially saying it. As theories grew, fans began imagining a hidden narrative behind the post. In this imagined sequence, Zhao Lusi is not just posting images. She is revisiting emotional memories through symbolic representation. In one imagined scene, she stands alone in a quiet room, looking at flowers arranged on a table. Each flower represents a moment she cannot speak about directly. She touches a white lily briefly, then pauses, as if remembering something she has not fully let go of. In another imagined scene, she scrolls through older memories on her phone, stopping at a moment that no longer exists in the public eye, but still lives in emotional space. And finally, she decides to express it not through words, but through carefully curated imagery. Not for confirmation, but for understanding. The internet is divided. Some believe this is over-analysis of a simple aesthetic post. Others believe Zhao Lusi has once again demonstrated her ability to communicate emotionally through subtle artistic expression. But one thing is undeniable. The post has triggered a level of engagement that goes far beyond normal celebrity content. People are not just viewing it, they are studying it. And the longer they look, the more questions appear. Was this a message about love? Was it about closure? Or was it about something even more personal that cannot be defined so easily? Before you move on from this, look again at the images in your mind. Not as separate visuals, but as one continuous emotional sequence. Because if the theory is correct, then nothing in that post was random. And if you think you have already understood it, you might be missing the deeper layer entirely. Now the real question is this. Are we witnessing a hidden emotional confession in real time, or are we simply reading too deeply into carefully crafted aesthetics? Drop your interpretation in the comments, because the next layer of this story might only be revealed through collective analysis. The moment the post continued to circulate, something even more unexpected began to happen. It was no longer just fans analyzing flowers or debating symbolism. Screenshots started spreading showing that certain elements in the post appeared to change depending on when and where they were viewed. Some claimed a specific image looked brighter in one region, while in another it appeared slightly darker, almost as if the tone itself was shifting to match a hidden emotional rhythm. At first this sounded impossible, but the discussion only grew louder when more people began noticing subtle differences in how they remembered the post. One group insisted the pink blossoms were arranged in a circular pattern, while another group was certain they were scattered in a broken line. This disagreement did not weaken the theory, it intensified it because it suggested the post was being interpreted through emotion rather than just visual reality. As the online debate escalated, attention returned again to Zhao Lusi and her previous patterns of communication. Fans started digging into older uploads, and what they found only deepened the mystery. There were earlier posts that now seemed connected in tone, color, and composition. Soft floral imagery appeared again and again, but never in a way that felt repetitive. Instead, it felt like chapters of a silent emotional timeline that had never been labeled. Then came the moment that changed everything for the entire theory. A small detail that had been ignored suddenly resurfaced. In one of the images, barely visible unless zoomed in, there appeared to be a faint reflection on a glass surface behind the flowers. In that reflection, some viewers claimed they could see a blurred outline of a handwritten note placed off-frame. It was not readable, not even clearly defined, but the suggestion alone was enough to send the discussion into another level. People began reconstructing the idea that this was not just a symbolic post, but a layered emotional message designed to be discovered gradually. Each detail acted like a key, and only when combined did the message begin to form a pattern. The white lilies that once represented clarity were now interpreted as closure. The pink blossoms, once seen as emotional memory, were now linked to unresolved affection. The broken branch, once seen as imbalance, was now viewed as distance created by circumstance rather than choice. And as this interpretation grew, a new emotional narrative started forming in the minds of fans. They imagined a situation where Zhao Lusi is not speaking directly to the public at all, but instead communicating to someone specific through imagery that could survive public exposure without revealing private truth. A message that only the intended viewer would fully understand, while everyone else would only see beauty. But what truly shifted the atmosphere was the timing of her silence afterward. After the post, there were no clarifying captions, no follow-up explanations, and no denial of speculation. Just silence. That silence itself became part of the message, because in the world of constant updates, silence often speaks louder than words. In this imagined emotional continuation, she is seen alone again, not performing, not presenting, just reflecting. The same flowers appear in her surroundings, but this time they are no longer arranged for an audience. They exist in a private space, unfiltered and unposted. She looks at them without expression, not as symbols for others to decode, but as memories she already understands too well. The idea of reconciliation enters the narrative again, but not as a dramatic reunion. Instead, it is presented as something quieter. Not the return of something lost, but the acknowledgement that some connections do not disappear completely, even when they are no longer visible in public life. They simply change form, becoming memory, distance, or meaning that cannot be openly spoken. As the theory reaches its peak, fans begin to divide into two interpretations. One side believes the post is a carefully constructed emotional confession meant to hint at a private truth without exposing it. The other side believes it is an artistic expression misunderstood by overanalysis, a visual diary mistaken for coded communication. But even with the disagreement, one fact remains unchanged. The post succeeded in doing something most celebrity content never achieves. It created sustained attention, emotional interpretation, and global discussion without a single explanatory word. And that is where the final realization settles in. Whether intentional or not, the message has already escaped control. It now exists in the space between creator and audience, shaped by perception rather than explanation. The flowers, the colors, the timing, and the silence have all become part of a collective narrative that continues to evolve without confirmation. In the end, the truth may never be officially defined, but the impact is already real. A simple post has transformed into a global conversation about meaning, emotion, and the way modern storytelling can exist without language. And as the discussion slowly continues across platforms, one final question remains lingering in the air. Was this ever meant to be decoded at all, or was the real message always about how easily we try to find hidden meaning in something that was already complete on its own?